I have not done any text completion material in months, so I thought it was time to remedy that with an interactive video because the feedback on my interactive videos has been great so far, so thank you for that. And I got these questions from Kaplan and I have not seen them before, so it will be fun to do them. I think there are 5 or 6. There are 6 and you only get to see the answers at the end, so I guess we'll only know if I'm getting them right at the end. But I'll give you my thought process as I go along. I'll also kind of teach you a little bit if I can, so this won't be under time conditions. But either way, I hope that it is useful for you to see. The general themes I'm going to be following for text completion, as with the rest of verbal for GRE and GMAT, is to read slowly, understand the text, predict the answer. So let's try that out here. The director is normally lauded, praised, for his exciting science fiction films, but his latest effort is marred, spoiled by its something special effects. Well, I'm guessing, I think that's supposed to say exciting here. There's some typos here I've noticed, and here it says emotive, L. But anyway, ignore the typos. Let's get to the answer. So he's normally praised for exciting science fiction films. I'm guessing here his latest efforts is spoiled by its lackluster, boring, rubbish special effects. Definitely not electrifying. Piquant? I don't quite know. I think that means like provoking a reaction, but I'm not entirely sure. Bland would be great. The but highlights a contrast. And what's the opposite of something being exciting? It would be to be bland. Not emotive, bringing out emotions, not sophisticated, smart. So happy with bland there. That was a fairly simple one. Let's keep going. Despite her long battle with illness, the dancer displayed astonishing something of motion on stage. Despite. So this is a contrasting sentence. Well, what would you expect with a long battle of illness? Her not to be good at dancing, I guess. The dancer displayed astonishing something of motion. Astonishing kind of range of motion or ability of motion, flexibility, I don't know, something positive about how much motion or movement she can do. Indolence, laziness, no. Hesitancy, no. We're looking for a positive word. Extension, not really. Queasiness is a negative word. Fluency. You normally think of fluency being about language, but it can also be about anything that you're flowing. That's where the word comes from, flow. Anything that flows well, like a language, if you speak it well, it flows well, you're fluent. Same thing if you're fluent in motion. Pretty confident with that one. So I would move on. If I'm not 100% confident, I often spend a bit more time, like paranoid, and check that I'm right, but this one I'm quite confident on. So let's do question 3. Given the something nature of the evidence, the authorities are unlikely to present a something case against the accused. So it could be a positive word here, given the strong nature of the evidence. The authorities are unlikely to present a weak case, because if you have strong evidence, you're not likely to have a weak case, or the other way around. Given the rubbishness of the evidence, the authorities are unlikely to present a strong case. I'm looking for some combination like that. Given the flimsy is a perfect word, meaning weak. Often you talk about that in the case of evidence. Flimsy evidence, weak, unsubstantiated evidence. You wouldn't mean abstract, which means not physical. This doesn't really make sense here. Rakish, I believe, means someone who gets drunk a lot, like a rakish young boy, someone who goes to lots of parties, I believe. Behaves like a rake. You might want to check that, but that's what I think it means, which wouldn't fit here. So given the weak nature of the evidence, the authorities are unlikely to present a strong case. So which word here means strong? Convincing. Convincing, strong case. Perfect pair there. Weak and tepid both mean the same thing, but are not what we're looking for. Okay, I think this is going well. Maybe they're gradually getting harder, I don't know. But either way, let's see for question 4. Every effort by the bank to determine the origin of the funds met with something, I'm guessing reluctance, resulting from the web of something created by the account holder. Like a web is something hard to unravel, complicated. So I'm guessing this account holder has tried to obstruct the people determining the origin of the funds. So it was met with obstruction, hindering, resulting from the web of deception or something to stop people understanding the account holder, basically. That's my prediction, but we'll see what works. Every effort by the bank to determine the origin of the funds met with exuberance. No, you wouldn't describe a banking situation with exuberance, excitement. Was met with apathy, a lack of feeling. Not really, we're not talking about a lack of feeling here. We're not talking about feelings. Was met with frustration. Perfect. Frustration is when you're trying to do something, but you're being hindered or impeded. You're not making progress. Why was there this frustration? It was resulting from the web of deceit, conviviality, temerity. Well, I was talking about deception. Deceit is very close to that. It's lying, basically. Obstruction. Not being truthful, not being upfront or honest, being deceitful. I'm especially confident in D because the other words don't fit. Conviviality is like being sociable, talkative, friendly, which there's no implication of that in the sentence. Temerity, I think that means bravery. I think you might want to check that. Temerity, I think, yeah, audacity, bravery, I think. And you wouldn't describe bravery as a web. It just doesn't fit, the image doesn't fit. The tone of the sentence here was quite useful for me to see that they're talking about something serious and negative. Every effort was wasted, basically. It was met with frustration, resulting from a web of deceit. The tone was very important there. Either way, on we go to question 5. I feel like they are getting harder, so we'll see about these two. But I'm 99% sure I've got them all right so far. Okay. Ancient Greek philosophers tried to something contemporary, which means existing at the time, tried to something contemporary notions of change and stability in the physical composition of the world around them. Let me zoom out so you can see the whole thing here. Ancient Greek philosophers tried to something contemporary notions of change and stability in the physical composition of the world around them. Okay, change those notions? Change the ideas or reinforce those notions? It's complicated. They did this by something the existence of the atom. Okay. For them, the atom was something, particle, from which all varieties of matter are formed. This is probably a bit too complicated for me to make a prediction, so I'm going to go straight to the answers. They tried to reconcile. Actually, reconcile would fit, because reconcile means bring two things together that don't seem that related, or bring together two arguing parties. I've just noticed we're talking about change and stability, which are opposites, right? So it would make sense to try to reconcile those two things. You're not going to want to eliminate the notions of change and stability. There's no other word in this whole paragraph that suggests that these guys are really negative, trying to eliminate things. So that wouldn't fit tonally. And confirm, it just doesn't work as well as reconcile. Possible, but almost certainly wrong. So they're going to try to reconcile these notions. And how would they do so? They did so by something the existence of the atom. By denying. Well, if they deny the existence of the atom, then why would they be talking about it here? For them, the atom was something, particle, from which all varieties of matter. It wouldn't fit with the last sentence if they denied the existence of it. So it's not that. This is supposed to say ignoring, and again, they're not ignoring it because the last sentence, they're talking about it. Postulating would fit. Postulating is quite a complicated word, but it means like putting forward an idea, suggesting something is true. So they did so by postulating the existence of the atom. We're going, this is something we think exists. That fits very nicely. For them, the atom was a mythical, which again would mean that it doesn't exist. So that doesn't fit. For them, the atom was an indivisible particle. I know that from physics. Well, it's not indivisible, there's quarks. But anyway, a munificent. That wouldn't fit. Munificent means generous. It would be strange. No, you wouldn't describe a particle as generous. So indivisible would make sense. And I guess actually logically that would reconcile the notions of change and stability, because you've got the stability of the atom, but then the change of everything else being formed from it. Either way, definitely a complicated sentence, relying on some quite slow work there to get through it. But because we're faster on the other ones, we have the time to get this one right. Okay, last one. If this is getting harder, then this one might be really hard. But anyway, as a general rule, feuds between individuals or groups tend to arise in societies that something centralized government, because public justice, such as the kind meted out by a strong centralized authority or sophisticated judicial system, is difficult to something. That's a really complicated sentence, so we're going to have to take our time to go through it. So as a rule, feuds between individuals tend to arise in societies that have a centralized government or do not have. You would guess do not have, right? Because if you don't have a government, then you're going to have more feuds. So that would be my guess, because public justice, such as the kind meted out by a strong centralized authority, is difficult to... This is hard, so I'm going to have to look at the answers. I'm not quite sure. As a general rule, feuds between individual groups tend to arise in societies that espouse, which means like put forward, but we're not talking about like putting forward an idea, postulating, espousing an idea. We're more talking about, do you have a government or do you not have a government? So lack would make sense. Actually, that fits with my prediction, right? That we don't have a centralized government, therefore individuals and groups are going to feud and battle more often because they don't have that centralized authority. Again, affirm is too weak, just like espouse. We're not talking about praising something or suggesting something. We're talking about, do you have it or do you not have it? So lack is much stronger there. So if we lack a centralized government, then public justice is difficult to do, to administer, to identify. You don't identify public justice, to enforce. Yeah, if you don't have a government, it's difficult to enforce the law. That fits perfectly. And again, recognize the law or recognize public justice just isn't strong enough. Last one. In such societies, it is therefore not surprising that private recourse is more, as in doing things on your own privately without government, is more likely, more prevalent, happens much more often. Nothing in the paragraph to suggest brutality, so that's not in there. And objectionable, again, we're not describing whether this thing is good or bad, just how likely it is to happen. It's more prevalent if you don't have a central government. Okay, I'm very confident I got them all right, but there's a small chance I didn't. Let's find out. And what happened? 6 out of 6. Very, very good. Anyway, I hope this was useful to you. More importantly, it doesn't matter about my results. It matters whether you could get a glimpse of the way I answer questions, the pace that I use, the way I try to predict, unless the sentence is really hard, in which case I just try to eliminate based on the answers. How good vocabulary is really important, but you don't necessarily need to know every word 100% confidently to get it right. If this was helpful, as always, leave a like and a comment, and otherwise see you in the next video.